Hi, my name is Kelly Sarver, and this is my presentation on the Yakuza. The Yakuza are Japan's major organized crime groups, similar to the Mafia. They mix illegal activities with a strict code of honor, unique rituals, and a very public presence. They originally grew out of gamblers in the Edo period and later developed into structured families with clear leaders, roles, and symbols. They're considered deviant because they regularly break the law, even though they still operate openly in many parts of Japan. The Yakuza began during Japan's Edo period, mostly from groups of gamblers and street merchants who lived on the margins of society. Over time, these groups banded together for protection and developed their own rules and leadership. As they grew, they organized into tight, family-like structures with bosses and lower-ranking members. They also created recognizable symbols and rituals to show loyalty and identity. This evolution eventually turned them into the organized crime syndicates known as the Yakuza today. As Japan modernized in the late 1800s and early 1900s, the Yakuza expanded by taking advantage of growing cities and new opportunities for gambling, protection services, and black market trade. Their influence increased even more after the World War II, when societal chaos and weak law enforcement allowed them to recruit easily and control entire neighborhoods. Many groups built strong ties with politicians and businesses, helping them gain power and operate more openly. By the 1960s, the Yakuza had become deeply embedded in Japan's economy, managing everything from construction to entertainment industries. This period marked their peak, when they became one of the most visible and powerful criminal organizations in the world. The Yakuza are unusual among criminal groups because they traditionally kept public offices and even handed out business cards. Some Yakuza factions have taken part in disaster relief, such as delivering supplies after the 2011 Tohoku earthquake. They also tend to recruit members from marginalized groups in Japan who face social or economic discrimination. Today, the largest and most well-known syndicate is the Yamaguchi-gumi, which has existed for over 100 years. The Yakuza follow a strict hierarchy based on the Oyabun-Kobun relationship, where the boss acts like a parent and the members act like loyal children. Members must show absolute loyalty to their boss and the organization, putting the group above personal interests. Another major tradition is yubitsume, the ritual finger cutting used to apologize or take responsibility for serious mistakes. Tattoos, known as irezumi, are also an important tradition, symbolizing commitment and endurance, though they are usually kept hidden in public. They also follow a code that forbids disrespect towards higher-ranking members and demands obedience, discipline, and the protection of group honor. What is deviance? Deviance is socially constructed, meaning what a society sees as wrong or abnormal depends on its cultural values, expectations, and norms. In Japan, actions like running illegal gambling houses or using violence to enforce loyalty are considered deviant because they break both legal and cultural values, which places the Yakuza outside of accepted behavior. Even their tradition of full-body tattoos, which symbolizes honor within the group, is viewed by mainstream society as threatening or improper. Their strict loyalty structure, where members prioritize the gang over family or community, also clashes with broader societal expectations about responsibility and trust. These examples show how the Yakuza's behavior conflicts with Japan's social norms, making them a clear example of socially constructed deviance. Are they really deviant? Deviance is a behavior that goes against society's norms, rules, or laws, and is seen as unacceptable or outside of what is considered normal. The Yakuza are considered deviant because nearly all of their operations involve violating legal and societal norms, even though they have a structured culture of their own. For example, they engage in crimes like extortion, drug trafficking, and money laundering, which directly breaks the law. They also practice rituals such as yubitsume, finger cutting, which goes against mainstream Japanese culture values about the body and personal dignity. Additionally, their open use of intimidation, illegal gambling, and exploitation of vulnerable people show how their actions consistently threaten public safety and challenge the rules that society depends on to function. The Yakuza raise many ethical questions because, while they follow their own strict code of honor, their actions often harm others and break the law. Is it ethical for them to protect their members and uphold loyalty if it means committing crimes like extortion or fraud? Some argue that their involvement in disaster relief or community support shows a kind of moral responsibilities, but does this justify their illegal activities? Their use of intimidation, violence, and exploitation of vulnerable people challenges basic ethical standards in society. Studying the Yakuza forces us to ask whether following an internal code can ever make harmful actions acceptable, or if their behavior is fundamentally unethical. The modern Yakuza are quite different from the groups that existed decades ago. In the past, they were highly visible, often walking the streets openly, running gambling dens, and showing their full body tattoos as a sign of identity and loyalty. Today, stricter laws and stronger police enforcement have forced them to become more secretive and cautious. Modern Yakuza focus more on financial crimes like fraud, real estate schemes, and corporate infiltration, rather than street-level violence. While they remain organized and influential, their public presence has decreased, and they operate in more subtle, business-oriented ways. Yakuza tattoos, called irezumi, are more than decoration. They show a person's loyalty, strength, and life story. Dragons are a common motif and symbolize power, wisdom, and protection, often showing the wearer can overcome challenges. The size, color, and placement of a tattoo can reflect a member's status or personal traits. These tattoos mix Japanese mythology with individual meaning, so each one tells a story. Overall, they act as both a cultural statement and a mark of identity within the Yakuza. The Yakuza have historically been organized into large, well-known gangs or syndicates, often referred to as families or clans. The most famous is the Yamaguchi-gumi, which is the largest syndicate and has thousands of members across Japan. Other notable groups include the Sumiyoshi-kai and the Inagawa-kai, each with its own territories, leaders, and traditions. These gangs often compete for influence, control over territories, and access to illegal markets, but they also follow strict internal rules to maintain order within their organizations. The Yamaguchi-gumi have been involved in illegal gambling, extortion, drug trafficking, and loan sharking. They have been engaged in corporate crimes, including stock market manipulation and real estate schemes. They follow strict hierarchical structure with a clear leader and loyal members. They have a long-standing tradition like tattoos and initiation rituals that show commitment and identity. They consistently break legal norms through crime and violence, and their actions threaten public safety and exploit vulnerable populations. The Sumiyoshi Kai have been involved in drug trafficking, illegal gambling, and loan sharking. They participate in extortion and control of small businesses in certain regions of Japan. They engage in violent disputes with rival gangs to maintain influence. They are also organized into a hierarchical structure with clear leadership and divisions. They follow traditions like initiation rituals, tattoos, and strict loyalty to the group. They use violence and intimidation to maintain control over territory and markets, and they place loyalty to the gang above societal rules and ethical norms. The Inagawa Kai have been active in smuggling, gambling operations, and loan sharking. They have been involved in political corruption and infiltration of legitimate businesses. They also have a family-like hierarchy with a clear boss and disciplined membership. They also follow Yakuza traditions. They also commit crimes that violate both law and societal norms, using intimidation and coercion to exploit communities. The Yakuza can stand out from other organized crime groups like the Italian or Russian mafia because they often take part in public events like disaster relief and do business openly. They use full-body tattoos as a mark of identity, even though tattoos are traditionally frowned upon in Japanese culture, and follow strict hierarchies emphasizing loyalty and honor. While they engage in crime like gambling and extortion, they also run legitimate businesses such as construction companies and nightclubs. Their mix of public presence, cultural rituals, and business makes them more intertwined with society than other secretive mafias. There are a couple movies about the Yakuza, but they are all very dramatized to be more entertaining for watchers. There are also games that surround the Yakuza identity and culture in Japan. The Yakuza are very influential as they've changed Japan's economy, politics, and social systems, affecting people more than they may think. The Yakuza are involved in activities such as fraud, extortion, human trafficking, gambling rings, and more, showing how they break laws and can exploit people. Learning about them provides insight into organized crime as a whole and helps us understand how these groups maintain power and continue to impact society even today. Learning about the Yakuza changed the way I think about crime in society because it shows that not all deviance is hidden or entirely chaotic. They operate openly, follow strict codes, and even participate in legitimate businesses and community aid, which challenges the idea that criminals are always outsiders with no structure or morals. It makes me question how society defines right and wrong and how much more culture shapes what we see as acceptable behavior. Studying them also makes me realize that crime isn't just about breaking the law, it's about power, loyalty, and survival within a social system.